So thank you for coming to both sessions. And I am just going to open it up. Are there any presenters that want to say anything that they missed, or any people that have any questions or thoughts about either session today?
I would start with I think that the psychodrama that I just experienced was brilliant. I started going like, I could talk to my bells and my bells could talk to me. Oh, wow, we need to do this. I haven't been talking to these bells like this in a long time. And I could get my students to talk to the bells too and encourage them to listen to the bells by hearing what the bells would say to them as far as their goals of interaction. This is an instrument. So it was brilliant, and it gave me a lot of really good ideas. I can even talk to, I don't know, I talk to my machines in my house and I ask them to perform for me. I have often thought I was nuts, but it seems to work. So anyway, that's my thought. Thank you.
Good point is also I recently because I started my education like in terms of like counseling etc. in Serbia, but I know that there's an Hudson Valley, I think, psychodrama institute, and I can share the information, I can find it, where I think they do have like a training how to become, maybe like use the elements of psychodrama and art therapy and everything when facilitating other things. So just so you know, in case you're interested. Yeah.
And
I just wanted to say that I thought well, I can comment on both, but first I'll do the psychodrama workshop. I thought was really great in the sense that it drives home the point of how we make assumptions about things we are afraid of. We assume the road is out to get us. Let's just say in this experience that because, that's the threat it poses. But if it helped me step back and question, when I make that assumption that the person, the thing, or whatever I'm afraid of is really that their motivation is to get me. And that is a mistake, right? Because that's just my story. And I'm just hearing the one side, right? So this kind of twists us. It makes us become the other story. And when it comes to conflict resolution, we all have to be open to other stories, no matter how strong our fear is. And I think that's what I got the most out of this, that the sense of not the particular, but the bigger picture of it. And I think I can see how it could be extrapolated into very even more elaborate things. But this simple task brought that out to me and reminded me of my own assumptions at times. So I thank you for that, everybody who played and participated. And then I think also from the early mornings workshop, it also speaks to, again, the voice that hasn't been heard, the voice of women, the voice of people from different class structures, those assumptions, or if we don't talk, what stays in place. And so I thank you all for really, delving in and being risky and sharing this with us this morning. So it's really not a question, but more of a comment.
I'm going to call on myself. I have a thought. So I teach yoga, and when I really learned yoga, it's like something that permeates my whole life. Like I really, really live in it. And when I teach movement analysis, which isn't movement therapy and it's different or whatever, but it's a little bit part of it, I separate myself. And today in one of the early sessions, you were just talking about breath, which I teach in movement analysis, and pranayam, which is like yoga. And for whatever reason, I was like, yeah, they're the same thing. These are all the same practices. And so I just thank you for that. And I guess if I had a question, I'd be curious, like, have you found yoga or anything else culturally specific that has like permeated, or you've been able to make other connections like that. I'd be curious.
Are you talking to Prajakta or to me or to all of us?
All of you, any of you.
Well, one of the things that, and you guys have to remind me about the Hindu words because I don't remember. There are a lot of elements. For example, in Bharatanatyam, if you even want to look at the deep plie that people have to do, there's so many common things, but it hasn't quite integrated in the same way, but there's familiarity. In the adolescent group that Sumana and Krutika talked about, we had a real interaction between LMA and living dance, living music, and bringing some of the cultural pieces in, but it's not quite the same as yoga becoming a way of life, which is what you're describing. And because yoga is on so many different levels, not just body, mind, and there's a whole spiritual piece to it, etc. But in terms of specific movements in living dance, living music, what I've asked all the students to do is they've shared traditional dances that, for example, Prajakta's group did a whole bunch of dances they showed us that have to do with preparing for a wedding and the bride and what happens afterwards. And then I asked the students to look at the dance movements and find the simplest movement within it that can relate directly to the elements of living dance, living music. But I leave up the spiritual piece to each person because there's such a range from the most secular students to those who are devout. And so I don't feel for me yet, certainly not for me, it might be one of my students in the future who figures that out, but I don't feel like it's my place to do that.
I'll build up on what Dani is saying. Yoga is, as understood today in both East and West, is almost just like 1/8 or 2/8 of what actually yoga is. So there are so many other elements which need to be integrated, but for that, a deeper knowledge and understanding needs to be generated. Also, to generate that, we need more time and aspect of study to be integrated with yoga, both in the term yoga and also integrated, as Dani also mentioned, Bharatanatyam or other, as I'm talking about Natya Shastra, for which I am researching a lot into it and creating interdisciplinary approaches through it. So your question to yoga, breath work, it is just it's just the tip of the iceberg, as we call in psychology. So there are many deeper layers to it. I would also like to share my thoughts on the psychodrama that we did today. It was very, very interesting and opening various aspects of my thought process, especially when I deal with hypnotherapy and other deeper issues. Here, it was very interesting to see how inanimate objects become threats. And I was also the thing coming to my mind again and again, which I wanted to say to Natalia as a road, would be that you are not even in my agenda. And it's kind of heartbreaking as well as liberating both at one time, because the purpose of road is that people go, and it lies on us to be more sympathetic, though the psychodrama activity opened this aspect that how the inanimate objects are making us so fearful for our lives. In my sharing, I was also sharing that in earlier sharing that when I moved to US, the physical threat was really scary to me. The roads are so much bigger and the speed is their speed. So death can be like coming like this. It appeared as if it's deadly. So, and of course the media and all the guns and all the violence that was happening around was like the inanimate things were like between life and death fear was there. So this whole line which is coming up to my mind, that you are not even in my agenda, is quite scary. And uh, kind of touching me at a very core and deeper level, that how do we bring safety to the agenda? you know yeah.
Let me actually just, I don't think there's like this is not a question, but it's a lovely call for me to say that this is your road. This could have been Natalia's road, but this is what I love about psychodrama, is that we all have maybe this conversation in our head. So why, for instance, I didn't let Dani and others like share, start from like sharing what they think and adding to it, is because this was Natalia's work. This was her moment to have her conversation, and you helped out. But by watching it, you also, all of us were going, and me leading the work and everything and participating, we all went through some of our own processes. And probably in like, coming days, things are going to show up. Maybe something has changed. And this is what I love, because everyone's participating and everyone's going through something. And it's just miraculous to kind of see what that is. So even if you haven't, like, even if you're just in the audience, but this is why it was important for everyone to be involved and have their cameras on too, right? So, yeah.
Thank you.
And Melania, Malena. Sorry, my daughter's name is Malena, and I have a friend Melania. So,
Okay.
my daughter's name is actually Elena. So but I just wanted to say, since you mentioned what was happening when I was listening to you, I got stuck on one thing, and that was, you called the road a he at one time, or at least that's how I heard it. And I couldn't stop with that, like, oh, I'm the road now. Well, I need to explode, but all it got to me is that all the obstacles and authorities and the voicelessness, and I couldn't get rid of that. I kept holding on to that he part, but I didn't say anything until now. And I thought, why does it have to be a he?
Thank you for saying this. Thank you for saying this. Because it didn't, part of it is also in Serbian, we have,
Translation.
it's, the nouns are gendered. And so this was just like, as though I am a native speaker of English too, but I think like most of my day I function in Serbian. So this was unintentional, or I might have had a process of my own. I don't know. I didn't check with Natalia to see the gender of the road. That would have been interesting too. But thank you for.
But I couldn't let go of that. And it made me realize how pissed off I am at the men in this country who are causing so much terror in this country and taking away the rights of women and thinking of our daughters and granddaughters right now. So I couldn't get away from that. And I really wanted the road to break up. So I think that's where the thing about making the bump in the weather changing, I want the road to break up.
Keep that from this. If you take only that. So, and thank you.
Anyway, it was very delightful to do that. I just wished it was longer, and that for my part, would have got to act and dance the roles,
You know what? You've given me so many ideas. So if I've got to organize something, I'll let you know. Okay. I'm just expanding in like the English speaking world, let's say.
So I'm aware that it's 11:55 and that we could talk about this forever. So thank you to all of the presenters today. It's been amazing to connect with people so far away. I loved it. So feel free, I'll keep the chat open for a couple minutes. If anybody wants to put their emails in the chat or whatever, I'll just kind of be here, but thank you.
Thank you, everyone.